fresh off of her successful re-election campaign for the state house, I wanted to go through could be potentially touchy subject with Heather about failure, what it means to truly fail, what it means to win. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Warrior Mindset Podcast. We are your guide as you make your way through life, getting better 1% every day. We believe that life is lived and true victory won through adversity. Nothing easy is ever worth it. We believe in the warrior ethos and support those that choose to walk that path.
I wanted to get you in here to talk about failure.
Ooh.
And I say that with a caveat because you just came off a big win.
Yeah. Have we talked about it?
No.
Yeah, we have not. It's gone by so fast.
We have not.
Feels like it feels like a year ago.
Congratulations.
But thank you. It also feels like yesterday.
Yeah. It kind of does. Time isn't real anyway.
It really isn't.
I think we've had that conversation.
Yeah.
Time is just relative.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, though, and we've talked about it a bunch when you've been on here,
mm-hmm.
that you didn't just wake up and go win this thing.
No, definitely not. I wish.
Yeah. So you worked on that for how many years before you actually won?
Well, I started running for public office actively in 2019.
Yeah.
And so it took, how many years to win the first time?
I don't know how many years.
3, 4, like of continuous.
Yeah.
Every day doing something toward that goal. And then won 2022. And then, I really paraphrased that a lot because a lot happened within those 3 years in order for me to be able to win. And then really the re-election was going to be, I knew would be the toughest election. It really was.
Really?
Yeah.
The re-election?
The re-election was going to be the toughest election. It was really just to prove, or show folk like it was not a fluke. It was more than just going off of, how bad the opponent is, but what I've been able to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
So did that add up for people?
I think it did. I like how you ran on what you have done and what you were going to do,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to, like you just said, how bad the other person is. Because I think we were surrounded by that so much.
Yeah.
I think that message is a good way to deliver.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes in 2022, that worked.
It sucks that the anti-programming is being positive about yourself,
right,
and not just negative about someone else.
But that the latter worked in 2022, right? That campaign was nothing to do with me.
Right.
It's all about what I've learned is it's all about timing. It's all about, reading the landscape and then messaging based on what is happening. Mm-hmm. And as much as we don't want to admit, even local politics are extremely influenced by what's going on nationally.
Of course.
And across the world. So, at that time, 2022, we focused very strategically on a message. And then this next time we're like, okay, I live in a very educated, well-informed district. They vote very frequently. They pay attention. They know who I am. So they were watching, they're going to go and like, okay, let's see. Mm-hmm. Let's see if we want to keep her around. And that's kind of how I felt the re-election was. I'm like, let's see if they think I've done a good job.
I guess they did.
I think they did. Pretty astounding that,
I guess they did.
Yeah.
So what made those two successful runs different than the two that weren't?
Well, I was very new to politics, and there's kind of a rite of passage, mm-hmm. even in our, in politics, you have to kind of have shown that, you have, I guess, chops, but a background in politics. And, I was a newcomer. So for the first 3 years I was in politics, people were like, who are you? Like, mm-hmm. why are you here? And I was like, I have every right to be here. I'm a citizen of the state. Mm-hmm. I'm an engaged voter now. Mm-hmm. Before I wasn't. And so I've learned a lot, and I think I have the skills in order to help people.
Mm.
And it took 3 years of just continually proving people like,
Yeah.
oh, she knows what she's doing. Oh, she's a really hard worker. Oh, she's resourceful. It took, that
Mhm.
much time in order for people to actually see what I was capable of.
So you're
So
just paying your dues.
I was paying my dues. I had to prove people over and over again
Yeah.
that I was worth it, that I could do it. Because I don't come from a political family. I don't come from a rich family. I was a single lady,
Mhm.
working a couple jobs
Mhm.
and not a lawyer and all these things. So I think those first 3 years was really proving myself. I don't regret how I did either of those first 2 campaigns either.
Right.
No regrets. Like, I was myself. I think I ran a good campaign based on the resources I had.
Mm.
And those same people that were with me then helped me win
Mhm.
eventually.
You all learned.
We all learned together. So it was,
That's cool.
I've had the same people. The guy who helped me with my first campaign, I had dinner with him and his wife this past weekend. So
Cool.
it's like we are all still connected, and they've been with me since day one because
That's rad.
they saw something in me
Yeah.
that they're like, oh, okay, she can do this.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it takes someone else looking at you and showing that you can do
Sometimes,
something. And
yeah.
I'm like, oh, I guess I can.
You just have to get there.
Yeah.
I was just listening to a podcast with Jerry Seinfeld, of all people.
Yeah.
But he was talking about doing a sitcom. And, if you lived under a rock,
Yeah,
you don't
right.
know who Seinfeld is. But he had the Seinfeld show, right? And
Yeah.
he was saying that, like, somebody gave him advice before he wrote the first season or whatever. And he said, make sure you do it exactly like you want to.
Yeah.
Because if you don't and you fail, that will drive you insane.
Yeah.
But if you do it exactly like you want to and you fail, you can sleep with that.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So there won't be any like lingering doubt of like, well, what if I did this? Or what if that person, I would have listened to that person.
Yeah. And, that's exactly right. Because And, there could have been some other things I could have done, but I wasn't.
You still feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Like,
Yeah.
I could have taken harder shots. I could have done this or,
yeah, sure.
But I was not
Sure.
able to handle that kind of blowback. Like, I just wasn't in the place to do that.
Yeah.
In my life. So it's like, it's every decision was, made based on what I could handle as a person, because politics is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get so much crap, so you have to be prepared even mentally to be able to handle what you're dishing out.
Do you think that this is kind of a sidebar, but do you think that goes into why? Let's first set up my premise that most politicians have giant egos and they're arrogant.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Okay,
for the most part.
That's just that's the science.
Yeah, it's.
But do you think that goes to that, like that defense of like listening to people? You know what I mean?
What do you mean, like listen to people?
Like it sort of can be under the guise of being authentic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like your ego. You're going to do what you think is right.
Right.
Can kind of bury like your humility a little bit, where you're going to take a lot of shit from people, so you don't listen to any of it, but as a result you don't listen to anything.
Well, that happens.
You know what I mean?
I think a lot of it has to do with competition. For instance, in our little city here, we have so many seats within the Senate, House, whatever.
Yeah.
And I have learned from being in a really competitive district, it makes me a better legislator. It makes me a better representative. So I have told people, like, listen, if I just do my job, which is literally to represent, if I show up and I shut up and I just work on what they asked me to work on,
right,
I should be fine, right?
You think?
And this re-election proved that. I was like, I'm going to do what they want me to work on.
Right.
It may be, rats in schools, whatever. I'm like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
We've talked about that, where your peers in the House aren't your constituents.
They're not.
Right. And it feels when you watch politics on the big stage, you know what I mean? Like the federal level, and you watch the TV and there's Trump and Biden and stuff on TV. It sure seems like they're answering to each other more than they are to the people from where they're from. You know what I mean?
Well, Yes, but I think Trump does a better job of talking to the people.
I think he did too. Yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah,
Sadly.
he did. That is a completely different podcast.
Completely different podcast. You might want to turn it off right now.
Oh,
if you're
no,
on
it's
that path.
It's totally fine.
No,
I'm going to get Dr. Scott on here for a year-end review, and it's going to be like Trump smash.
Oh gosh,
2.0.
Great, I love it. I'll listen.
That's what he does.
But no, it can be hard to listen. You know, some people go in with a very strong agenda of what they want to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I have found it easier just to be receptive to feedback, and I feel like that's my role. It's literally my title, and it also makes my job easier. So
yeah.
But other folks are not. You know, they don't particularly have to do too much. I mean, this is the state of our state. You know, there's only so many competitive seats in this whole state.
Right. That's noted by the ballot when I voted how many empty
contested seats there are.
Uncontested states.
Correct.
Yes. Uncontested seats.
Right.
Or positions.
So if you just think about it, you know, without any kind of pressure.
Yeah.
You know, like what's the saying in karate? That pressure, water returns to its tepid state.
Oh, yes.
So same with work effort.
Yes,
like if you are not pressured, if you're not, you know, have constituents who are watching like mine, and I respect that, like they're going to vote you out. Yeah. You know?
And they should.
But that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So I think competition and that helps with better output of elected officials.
Well, you called the word karate out. So you wrote a paper. I'm going to dissect that a little bit.
Okay.
In a good way. You thinking of your past experiences, right? I mean, you wrote about a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to make the paper public or anything, but you said failure is such a universal experience, yet it feels deeply personal when it happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We all fail.
There's a lot of people who have run for office and not won office.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we usually don't see them again.
Yeah. And we talked a good bit about that, but how has that shaped you coming from those 2 losses to these 2 wins? I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but
you know, it sucks losing in such a public way.
I like it. I like losing in public.
In such a public way. You know, if I look back and see like the ethics reports compared to me and my opponent, like
right.
Dismal. I mean,
yeah.
Again, I worked with what I had, the resources I had. I did the best I could at that time. So I don't regret any of it. But it exposes you, especially in this setting.
Yeah.
It made me tougher as a person, personally, work ethic wise. It also helped me focus on what was really important and really keep people around me that I trust even more. Like I kind of, over the course of these years, I've really honed in on like who I really can confide in.
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
Like past year at least.
It's like, ooh, it's getting super close.
Your circle gets real tight.
It gets tight.
I think it should be. I think it really should be. Yeah. Like, I think about like social media, you know, I've got like 3,000 something fans, 3,000 whatever friends on Facebook. I'm like, I don't think I know that many people.
No.
You know, like we're not friends. Like,
no.
What does that mean? Like,
I don't know. That's a good conversation.
I think your circle should be really tight.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's gotten tighter. It's taught me like that I can believe in myself. Because
you think that's why that circle gets smaller? You need less reassurance from people?
No, more of I keep people around me who have believed in me. And those that start to that want to latch on or whatever because now that I'm somewhere.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay.
You got a lot of friends when you're winning.
Oh yeah, I've gotten a lot of calls. Yeah. They can just sit there on my phone for a while.
Where are they at when I'm losing?
Exactly. There's a great PJ Morton song about that, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
We were. I forget who I was talking with. It was Matthew McConaughey. I love quotes. He had something he said like, if you think you have a problem with me, call me.
Yeah.
If you don't have my number, you don't know me enough to have a problem with me.
Exactly.
And I love that. It's probably someone else, but I think it was him.
Yeah, that's good.
I was like, damn, that's good. That's
well,
really good.
That's the thing about, being in the space I'm in is like people will have their opinions of you they don't know.
Right.
You know.
You have no idea.
And the issues can be so complex. I'm like, it's not exactly always what it seems. It's not so cut and dry. So it can be kind of tricky. Well, this happened, therefore this happened, therefore this happened. With today's day and age, people, they don't want to hear the whole story.
No, they don't.
They don't hear the context of it.
No.
Like, what happened with that judge guy? Like, what happened with that? I'm like, well, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Back in 2020,
want some context.
This happened and this, so it's yeah.
I think we could continue to throw politics in here because it's what you're doing now. But like, I think the Democrats learned that lesson that trying to publicly discuss a very nuanced issue is a first-class ticket to Loserville.
It's too much.
Like
yeah.
I mean, I build websites for a living,
yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times someone will write something and it's like 5 paragraphs. I'm like, they will not read any of it.
No.
And they're like, well, how much should I write? I'm like, 5 words.
Sentence.
Like they're not even gonna, like, it's the same with the news. Like people aren't going to pay attention.
And I think, I'm still really processing what all happened the past month, and I guess literally a month tomorrow.
Crazy, right?
But I'm still really dissecting that. We'll love to talk more about that, but I think it comes down to how we talk to people and how we, our party in general, govern and who we bring into the tent. Like I said, it took me 3 years in order to be accepted.
Right.
When we are supposed to be the party of everybody.
And also when the ticket is like empty.
Right.
When I looked at that, whatever you call it, voter sheet or whatever, like there was only like 3 people. They were all national. I'm like, there aren't any Democrats on this ticket. And we're from South Carolina. So you can probably imagine what we're talking about.
Right.
It was like, why are you being so picky?
Well, then also,
you shouldn't be picky.
Some of these races are just not winnable based on numbers because they're so gerrymandered. So that's a whole other.
Yeah, there's a bunch of that.
A bunch of that. That's, I think, the root of the main issue in this state when it comes to competitive districts.
Probably.
And it goes on both sides.
Probably most states, but yeah.
Yeah. So.
Gross.
But failing wasn't fun.
You had a very powerful statement in your paper. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of success. Sorry. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the process. I'm reading it. I should read it right. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, you learn from it, right? It's whoever goes from point A to point F without taking a detour in life, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I hate the saying, you don't fail, you learn to win, or whatever that saying is.
We don't. What is it? I don't lose, I win. No,
I learn.
I don't even remember.
I don't lose, I learn.
Yeah.
Lose, I learn.
Yeah.
I guess, but saying like failure, like to have put your life on hold and putting yourself into something.
Yeah, you lost the ball game completely. They outscored you.
No, I lost the World Series.
Yeah, I mean,
not just one game.
Yeah, I mean,
lost everything.
Yeah.
And so
take your lumps and learn from it.
It could really suck. Yeah. But what I found in that was a lot of resilience. And even when I was never embarrassed, but I was like, all right, Heather, like one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Keep showing up, keep learning, keep doing what you're doing. And so I made myself do that when I didn't want to. It's like going to the gym when you don't want to. You show up when you don't want to. And it was like practicing a muscle, even after those defeats, like keep doing what you feel is right.
Yeah.
And so I worked on, in between those campaigns, like I worked on getting lawyers for the boiler room during the 2020 election. I helped knock doors for campaigns. I was doing this Workhorse Women series where I
Yeah,
had
I
women
remember
on,
that.
promoting women running for office
Yeah,
across the state
yeah.
or whatever. So I just kept putting myself out there and be like, let's just see what happens.
Yeah, keep doing stuff.
Keep doing stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where like I've never been the person who woke up and was like, I'm going to be an accountant.
Right.
I wish I was. I'm never like that. Like I have an interior design degree.
Yeah.
I don't tell people that very often, but but the whole path, I failed a lot, but campaign wise, I've learned a lot from it. But I learned to just keep showing up, even if I was, I felt like the weight was on my shoulders, and people might be looking at me like, why the hell is she here? She's showing up again. Like that's kind of the vibe I got from people.
Right.
And I kind of try to remind myself like this is a democracy.
Yeah.
I deserve to be here. And I guess I believed in myself that if I just kept doing the work, it would eventually pay off.
So I kind of like failure. You say failure is not the opposite of success. It's not. So you can be lucky.
Absolutely.
and win.
That's right.
I think the opposite of failure is persistence. Is what I really believe. And you wrote that. You said we live in a culture that glorifies perfection but undervalues persistence. Why do you think failure is stigmatized instead of perseverance being sort of more of a desired trait? Because it sucks.
It does suck.
I mean, it sucks to be persistent and consistent.
Yeah. Well,
consistency is hard.
It truly is, especially when you're feeling down and out, and you got your ass handed to you, and twice.
Yeah.
To do it a third time.
That's bringing up a memory. I think I stole it. It was like a manifesto, and I was working it. It was like my first job, and I was working at this place that everybody sucked. Like, I mean, I'm gonna sound very arrogant, but I felt like the only one that really gave a shit about the craft of what I was doing.
Yeah.
It was creative stuff. And I found this manifesto, and part of it was a story. It was like, imagine how like an NFL team feels after a big loss. And they have to come back in on Monday and practice again like they're going to win the next game.
Yeah.
Like you get 24 hours to stew in it, and then you got to put that shit on a shelf.
That's right.
Get back up and get that next game. And you see it in teams. You see it in teams that can manage
bounce
that.
Back for that. Yeah.
And you see it in teams that it just crumbles the season.
Yeah.
There's lots of things there, but
yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think
there's a parallel between like athletics and politics? I think athletes make great politicians just because we have learned in a big game, you hit a ball into the net. Well, don't do it the fucking next time.
Yeah.
Like you have to be like, all right, Heather, immediately adjust, and the next play's coming in 5 seconds. You don't have time to go cry or think about, pontificate on, whatever.
Yeah, the philosophy
of it. But, you're going to do that, or you're going to get back up and try your best the next play. And then once the game's over, go hit 100 more balls.
Do you think some of that comes from your past as a college athlete?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of invoked Jordan in your
I did.
Your paper, but people forget about. They look at Jordan. They look at the 4. Is it 4? 4 or 5? I'm stupid. I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember.
4 more than 3. They look at all his championships, and that's what they see. They don't see the first
8 seasons, whatever seasons
where they won they were the worst.
Yeah.
I
think the quote was, I can't remember the guy's name, an NBA player, but a reporter asked him, he just lost the last playoff game or whatever. They're at the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're like, do you think the season was a failure? And the guy's like, what?
Yeah. What are you talking about?
A failure?
Yeah.
So you mean so for instance, Michael Jordan, he lost 5 seasons in a row.
Yeah.
And then he won 5 after that.
Yeah.
You're saying those first 5 seasons was a failure?
Right.
No, you're asking the wrong question.
Yep.
So that's the wrong question. So Jordan sucks now. Michael Jordan sucks
yeah,
because he
had 5 losing
he didn't
seasons.
win every single time.
Right.
So I do think I don't know what that how to call, maybe it is persistence, but
With him,
to
100%.
just
but
lump that into, it's just like sheer grit
yeah,
and not
I love that word.
like fortitude,
Yeah.
like not giving up.
we use Kokoro in the, stole that from Seal Fit, but I mean, stole it from, Japanese culture,
right.
but
Yeah.
I love that word too. Grit. It's grit. I
Yes.
love grit, man. I
Yeah.
love that word. There's just so
Yeah.
much implied
Yeah.
in that term.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the opposite of failure, is grit.
I think so. That's good. That's
I
good.
like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned reframing failure as a feedback mechanism
Yeah.
rather than the end.
Yeah.
How do you do that? What's involved in like not losing your shit when somebody points out that you just lost?
Well,
Because you deal with that a lot. You deal with people. I'm sure you deal with people coming up and being like, I think you did that wrong and you should do this.
oh, everyone knew how to run a campaign.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
but
I
yet
remember
no
some
one.
of the conversations you were like, I won the last one. Why are they telling me shit that like
I did get a lot from people who, a lot of, well, I was going to run against him.
yeah.
Or,
well, you didn't.
You should do this. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who has won an election? One of the toughest races in the entire state.
In the state where pretty much no one else did.
No one else can win. Are you telling me how to do this?
Yeah.
And
yeah, where are you coming from?
You have to be like, I had to be very patient. You have to be very patient and kind of just let it roll off. And, maybe one of those nuggets will stay with you. Probably not. But there's also can be danger also, though, in living in a bubble. Like I think we did nationally. Like,
yeah, we were talking about that to start with.
Yeah. I mean, if you live in a bubble, you don't clearly understand what's going on. But, this is such a small race that if you're not really in touch with what is going on, then you're set up for failure anyway.
Yeah, probably not a good.
Yeah. But I get that. I do get that a lot. I still do. Like, oh, you should do this. You should do this. I could show you a ton of messages. I'm like,
sure.
Like, you should work on this. I'm like, what?
Well, how about the things that you actually were wrong about? Like, how do you reframe those and use them as, or do you just bury it deep down and?
Well, no,
in the rage bucket.
For instance, like,
who was it used to talk to us about the rage bucket?
Who is that rage
bucket? I don't remember. But
I do like that term.
Yeah, everyone has a rage bucket. It just depends on how full it is.
Yeah, who said that?
I don't remember.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like the rage bucket thing.
No, like I'll give you a good example. So voters are really busy.
Yeah.
They sometimes don't even look at their ballot until they go and they show up.
Yep.
To go vote. It is my job as a candidate to tell people, hey, I'm Heather.
I'm on there.
I'm on there.
Yeah.
I'm your representative if you didn't know.
You probably didn't.
And this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what I've done.
Yeah.
It's my job to tell them that.
Right.
So 1, if they do go, they go vote for me. And then 2, if they didn't make any plans, like maybe I can make them go vote.
Maybe they'll go make some plans.
Right. That requires resources. That requires money. That requires volunteers. That requires like a very coordinated effort.
Your most precious resource, time.
Time and money.
Yeah.
And so I knew going into this reelection that if I did not have the money, I was not going to win. Because it just takes reaching voters. And it costs money, right? TV, mailing, digital, whatever, texting, calling, like all these things require money.
No more texting.
Oh gosh, I just got one from Tim Waltz. I'm like, why?
You lost, bro.
Well, actually, I know because they have money. They need to retire. But anyway, so I knew after my first. Actually, how do I say this? In 2022, while I won, I was like, this is not the toughest election I'm going to have. So I knew this was going to be the toughest one. So I knew like he was going to come back. He was going to be well funded.
Right.
So I started literally a month after election, I was raising money.
Yep. You're right on it.
And that way I was doing a little bit at a time, because I knew with being in session, I'm like, well, I'm all about time management. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to have time to do this. So I started incrementally raising money And, I raised close to
Yeah.
$300,000
Building that war chest.
Well, I spent it all.
Well, you're supposed to.
But that's the whole point. But so I learned that, I would say, not only for my first 2 campaigns when I didn't raise enough, but even when I won, I learned that I can't wing it. Like,
right.
Not that we won, like we did wing it a little bit. We caught him off. Wung it?
Wang it?
Well, no, you can't say that. You can't say that. But I did learn, like, I had to raise the resources to do it.
Right.
And then I had the volunteer base. Like, I had slowly been building over time volunteers. And, this campaign, we would have like 20 people out on a day, like a impressive amount of people. So I also knew that I had to really tighten that up,
right?
Get the messaging tighter,
right?
Because my first 2 campaigns were not like super tight with messaging. I don't regret anything I ran on, but it just wasn't as sophisticated as it could have been.
Sure.
So
wow, you sound like someone who knows what the hell they're talking about.
I'm a politician. I can make shit up.
Oh,
no,
good job.
Well, I hope that my goal, and I've been traveling across the state talking to other Democratic groups. I'm going to Beaufort next weekend. And my goal is to encourage and, have a frank conversation about what the hell we're doing.
Yeah.
I did not win by being a nice person. Like, I ran on extremely tough messaging that people didn't want to talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
And it takes getting people like, listen, this is the reality of the state, the district that you live in. This is what is happening. Like, this is real.
You need to look at this.
Yes. Yeah. And it was different than it had ever been done before. And I think we can learn from that. But we have to be tougher. But it takes being, I think, a tough person. And I think I'm a pretty tough person for being able to do that.
You are a tough person. Is it being tough, or is it just being real?
I think
I feel like I'm cutting you off. I apologize. But I need to add on. I feel like every politician that I listen to is just full of shit. I mean,
a lot of them are.
I'm just bashing people, but like, it's just like, you're just saying shit. Like, you're not saying the real things that everybody's thinking.
Well,
I mean, I think Trump was.
That's what I'm saying.
For good or worse.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's about how you talk to people.
Like, people had those thoughts, and he just said them, and people were like, well, it connects. I mean, like,
he's being real.
You're going to feel one way or the other.
I hate to use the word authentic, but he's being himself.
I don't know what that means with him. It's just weird, but like, I think he was.
I think he is.
I mean, he said the weird shit that came in his head.
Not that he might do everything he says, but he's that's who he is.
In the moment he said it, I feel like he would do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. And that's a good marketing.
Whether you like it or you're scared by it.
Sure.
But, I mean,
yeah.
But like, I feel like the Democrats could have done more of that. It just felt like across the board, we weren't getting like that. Like, just tell me what the hell you're going to do.
Yeah.
Like, kind of like lawyer speak. There's like speaking around everything. It's like, I don't think people want to hear that.
No.
But that's a good lesson with people, I think, in general, is just be authentic. I mean, I know I don't like that word because it feels very like salesy, but like, don't pretend. I had Shakis on here a couple weeks ago, and he talked about I put it out as an Instagram reel. He talked about your truth and how your truth is different based on who you're talking to.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Can be.
Like as an African American person, he was talking about like he, depending on who he's talking to, he's trying to sell someone. He becomes a different person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I figure, I mean, as a woman, you probably do that too.
In politics, I mean, if I'm going to speak to a business group, am I going to talk about women's health care?
Right. They probably don't want to listen.
Probably not. Like, but I can talk about Act 388 and how it's repressed, or, millage of the tax. But, so you tailor to what you're doing. But I think the topic can change, but who you are as a person does not.
Yeah.
I think Kamala said something like that one time. She's like, I haven't changed as a person. Well, just say, listen, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I've changed what I think about that.
We all have. Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And I hope that, I'm very young in my career, but I hope to God in 5 years, I have learned a lot. And I can say, you know what,
Isn't that weird when you look
like
at a politician who's been there for like some of those dudes in the federal level have been there for like 50
oh my
years.
gosh, longer than
And
we've
it's
been
like,
alive.
you're the same dude when you first went in.
Yeah, they haven't changed.
What the hell?
Which is
Like, that lets me know that
yeah.
they're not paying attention to their constituents.
No, and that should be reflected in how whether they get elected or not. Because what happened, I would say
I don't think it does, but I
in
wish
this
it did.
state, in 2020,
Yeah, it did.
districts changed.
Yes.
We lost 5 seats in 2020.
Mhm.
Our folks, not only they didn't campaign the way they should have in most cases, but I think they truly lost touch of who their constituents were. It changes.
Mm.
The district changed for
Right,
me.
right. People move in and move out.
And the first doors
things
I went
shift.
and knocked
Yeah.
were the new doors in the district.
Right.
They'd answer the door like, "Oh, I thought my rep was this." I'm like, "Actually, no. New district lines." Like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming."
Yeah. Yeah, I would have voted for Knucklehead.
Well, yeah, because I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
So it's about knowing who your people are.
Okay. You said that every failure carries a seed of growth, but only if we're willing to nurture it.
Mm-hmm.
Ties into what we were just talking about. But
yeah,
having gone through some stuff, what would you tell someone who is new coming into doing what you just did?
Oh my gosh.
To prep them for the giant weight of failure that's about to hit them.
Which is inevitable, probably in the state, for sure.
Yeah. You experienced that on the other end when you first got in there. How would you be different than those people to you?
What do you mean? When I first got in there?
When you first started running,
you
were thinking about it.
Yeah.
You were listening to all kinds of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we had conversations.
Yeah.
And the things they told you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you think back on it now, none of it was accurate. Because it rarely is.
No. It's easier, we think about failure or think about our past. We typically remember the bad things that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
So looking back, I do remember people like, "Oh, you can't do that. Like, what are you doing? What?" So you remember all those things. But what I try to remember, are those people who did believe in me, who saw something in me. And you can have a lot within yourself, and I think I have a lot of faith in myself, but it does require, especially in this world, you can't do it alone. You cannot. I forget the question that you had, but
no, what would you tell someone who's just getting into this?
I mean, keep people extremely close around you that you trust. Be open to suggestions, but always follow your heart and work your ass off. And work for your people, work for your constituents, and no one else.
Yeah.
And no one else. Because again, those people over there cannot vote for me.
That's cool. No, they won't. Probably won't give you any money either.
Well, they can't. My colleagues cannot vote for me.
That's right. Well, they're not in the right district.
And that was in my my last video as a statement.
Yeah. Because
I was getting so much pushback from other people in my own party, even because I am a very independent person. Yeah. But yet I'm like, am I really? I'm just responding to my constituents. I'm doing my job. Nothing that I have done is against or goes against the democratic values or anything like that. And I won despite all of that. But I wanted to remind myself and them and my constituents that I'm there for them. I'm there for the people who can vote for me. I am not there to, I guess, play nice.
Yeah.
If you will. I'm respectful and
we got work to
professional, do. But I will always do what is right.
Yeah. You're there for the job.
Yeah.
You're not there to build your personal brand.
But what's really interesting is that, though, because of, not to brag, but because I have been who I am, I have built a brand.
Well, yeah.
As a ball buster, as someone who is, someone grabbed my hand in the house full. They're like, Heather, you wear the red shirt of courage, by what you did today. And the meeting or what,
Yeah.
So people see that as, because there isn't much of that in our politics
There's
right now.
not.
I think we are missing that so much. And, I know just a few people I look up to up there, and I'm like, wow, is this where we are? Is
Mhm.
this who, where's your
Mhm.
backbone?
Yeah.
Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing this?
Yeah. The mission is very different.
Mission's very different.
Self-preservation is also a mission.
But for what? That's my question, is like, why? Like,
It's the game. It's the
it-
universal
it-
game that everybody plays.
it's the money,
Yep.
it's the
Yep.
it's the deals you can get, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and that's really sad.
Yeah. Well,
Again, if I ever get like that, punch me in the face,
I
Gene.
will. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your martial arts practice brings some of that? Do you bring any of that into what you do?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you were on
Yeah.
you sent me a podcast to listen to where the host, I think you had left by that point, and it was after you were gone, and they said something like, "She will kick your ass" or something like that, or she'll punch you in the face or something. And you sent me a note. You might even remember. You sent me a note of like what do you think of them saying that about me? Or
Oh
something?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So there was an article written about me. Oh, it was Bourbon in the Back Room did a podcast, after election podcast, and I came in on and said
it was like
hi
the
a little
next day
bit.
or something.
The next day, I was like exhausted.
Yeah.
I got on there. I was like, yeah, man, talk to them. And afterwards, former Senator Shaheen, he's now the mayor of Camden.
Yeah.
He was like, and Heather, like, she's tough. Like she comes off like she will kick your ass if she has to.
Something like that.
And that's, but people want to fight her.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
think they do.
people want to fight her because this all go along to get along. Look at where it's gotten us.
Yeah.
So
you embrace that.
punching people? Yes. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, whatever.
No, I'm kidding. The philosophy, what we practice in karate, I think a lot about that in my decisions to do certain things.
Yeah.
Like, is this the right thing to do? Is this really justice?
Yeah.
Is this
Particularly those first 5 principles are pretty useful.
pretty dang useful?
Yeah.
Pretty dang useful.
Very,
but
very largely sweeping across lots of things.
But once you get to the first 5, my brand and who I am as a person can be pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
But I'm doing it because other people have not done the first part. Like, you have to like loosen the hang up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, makes sense.
We have to like loosen what is so tightly wound right now.
Yeah.
Because nothing's happening.
Right.
So someone's got to shake it up.
Yeah.
Like, nothing's going to change. So I feel like I'm the kind of person who can do that. And so that's what I'm doing, where I feel like I can.
You've always been that way, though.
I guess so.
It's not politics. You've always been that way, if you didn't know.
No. Yeah.
So you have also, how do I say this? You have said that you have a chip on your shoulder, and you've sort of invoked that like during workouts and things like that.
Yeah.
So you said that failure isn't just philosophical; it's emotional. Right. So how do you harness that? Like, like I feel like you do. I mean, that's what it means to have a chip on your shoulder.
Yeah. It's not. I would say, just to elaborate on that, it's not that I'm proving something to somebody.
Right.
It's never been about that. Like, even when I was like,
I never got that sense.
But I think that can be a fine line to cross with people, is that they're using that as to prove something to somebody.
Absolutely.
This has nothing to do with making people impressed with me.
Yeah.
It never has been with anything I've done.
Right.
So, well, I take that back. I've been immature and done shit before.
Well,
right.
Of course. We all have.
But all of, like, the fitness stuff I've done, it was nothing. It was about, can I do this?
Right.
Right. And it does help to have a little, I guess I see a chip on your shoulder as something, I guess it's grit, but to me, when I walk up into like the State House, where I'm like one of few women, Democrats, who's beaten one of the biggest family names in the history of the state.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I kind of walk in there. I'm like, all right, who's gonna mess with me today?
Yeah,
Like,
I
let's
know
go.
what I'm doing.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, and so I have to like readjust myself to, and you've seen that when I come in the garage, I'm like, oh, you're like, you need to calm the fuck down, because it can be, you know, it could be a lot, you know, being up there.
I've never told you that though.
You have
I?
Yeah.
Maybe you were over the top.
I was very over the
Okay,
top. I was doing Sean. You're like, dude, you're gonna pass out.
Yeah,
like
okay. That's different.
Like you need like, yeah. I was like, no, you're right. So I was like, I'm gonna pass out if I do this one more time, I'm gonna die.
Might.
Yeah, I think I've operated with that my whole life, just because I've kind of had to hustle for everything I have, and I've been digging myself out. I won't say out. I'm out now. But I've had to create everything I have.
Yeah.
And so, you know, call it survival mode or whatever. I've had to kind of create everything for myself in a lot of ways.
And that's not just physical, that's not just financial, that's also like mental and spiritual too.
Definitely.
Right. And I think maybe the mental and spiritual is probably harder than the other two.
Absolutely.
Because I know a lot of people who have come from essentially nothing. And they've built themselves up, they built great businesses, and now they drive around in like, overly fancy cars. They do dumb shit with their money.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, you didn't actually fix the scars that you're carrying. You fixed the two external parts, but not the internal part.
100%. So you'll see part 2 in my next paper.
Oh, okay.
My next paper addresses that, actually.
All right. I can't promise we'll do a podcast on it, but
it does. And a little prelude is like,
okay.
I do address the physical part of stuff, because to me, the physical part of this is the easiest part. I'm an athlete. Like, to me, it's easy to just get up and go to the gym.
Yep. Yeah.
If you just do that, and get over yourself,
90% of it,
it's gonna just happen over time, right? But it is the mental strength and all that is, it can be learned. You know, I think it can be learned to a certain degree. I think part of it though is just who you are as like literally a person. It's just innate within you.
It's cool. You said some of the greatest breakthroughs in history began as spectacular failures. Do you have an example? Well,
I talk about Simone Biles in there.
Yeah.
In my paper. Like,
that was cool.
I was not her failing, but you know, I kind of go through.
Well, I don't know. She kind of came back.
She absolutely did. You know, I talked a lot about her struggles, and her struggles and her backing out of the Olympics, and
she got a lot of shit for that.
I can't. Could
you imagine the level of shit?
Of shit. Like, I'm like a little Statehouse race. Like, this is like the best Olympic athlete in history. Everyone knows who she is.
Yeah.
Every little girl wants to be her.
Yes.
And she backs out of like the most important competition, but then she triumphantly comes back. But what she had to go through, you know, which she's very public about, which I appreciate, and that I've learned from, is just first getting help. You know, she didn't have all the tools. I didn't have all the tools. The first thing I did 2 things when I went to college. I got a job and I went to a therapist. Literally the first 2 things I did, like, I got a job and then I went to a therapist, because I had to really learn how to self-parent a lot.
Was it like a campus therapist?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because I didn't have that resource where I was from.
Right.
Live in the middle of nowhere. Also, my family didn't believe in therapy, so it was like
mine doesn't.
Yeah. So I knew it was a thing.
Yeah.
I was like, I think I need help.
You know what I learned about therapy for myself was, when I needed it, I seeked it out. Is that the right way to say that? Anyway.
Yeah. Seek it out.
I went and found it when I needed it.
Yeah.
And it was kind of too late. For that problem, like the work we had to do, we had to back way up, and it really didn't help me in the moment. It took several months, and I realized that therapy is something that you don't want to use it when you're in a crisis. You want to sort of
Yeah.
like work on your, but it's like preventative medicine. Nobody does that shit. I mean, in generally speaking, nobody does that. That's why we don't have, 800 members at the gym. If that's what we did, we'd have a full gym.
Right. And we'd only work one job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I learned about it. It was like, ooh, I should have done this a year ago.
But you never would have known that.
Right. Well, I do.
And now you know. Now you know.
Yeah.
You're like, ooh, spidey sense.
Yeah, I should probably pay attention to that.
I need to figure out how to navigate this.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't have a skill that I need.
Yeah.
I do that now.
Yeah.
I kind of use it like a la carte. I'm like, okay.
Well, right.
I'm like, okay, I this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But now I know that about myself to know I need some answers. I need some guidance.
So we're in that section of my notes, but you included some advice for people, and it's something I see you doing. You wrote, document your failures as you would your successes. That's part of it. But I notice you more now, maybe because you're doing like your karate stuff in a notebook, but you're like literally always writing in that notebook.
Yeah.
Is that a tool you use just for the karate, or is that a tool you employ for other things?
Well, in that book, I have like my workouts. I'll have like the karate stuff I did, maybe questions I have, but I have like my schedule for myself to complete all my requirements. I have, it's like a lot of stuff.
It's the plan.
It's the plan. It's the master plan.
Yeah.
But in there I have like, I put like my dog died today.
Yeah.
And then the next day I have my brown belt test. So like I go back, I'm like, holy shit, like, and those like little pages, like I've been through, got engaged, like I've won 2 elections,
and like that's in the book,
and it's all in the book.
That's cool.
It's not a lot, but
that'll be a great thing to read like 20 years from now.
Right. Yeah.
And you have gotten like pretty much everybody else in there doing the same thing.
That's cool.
It's very cool.
Like
sometimes I'm like, put the book down and get over here. Like,
I do some karate now. Well, it's cool because I have books. I've been doing this, I think, since from college. I have all my notebooks from college.
Wow, that's cool.
And like I have binders full of paper now. But I don't know how many notepads in my bookshelf from when I first started running for office. Like I was meeting with like people like Ann Sinclair and all these people.
Right.
I went back and looked at Howard Duvall. I was like, oh my God, like
all the stuff he said.
And now I'm like, I'm doing it now.
That's very cool. I don't journal. Do you journal?
No, I don't journal, but I note. I take notes.
Yeah, I found it very hard to journal.
I don't journal. This is your journaling, really.
It winds up
kind
being
of.
But I do write down like activities, meeting notes, thoughts about like if I'm pissed off about something, I will write that down. Like that guy needs to die or whatever. Like I'll write shit like that down, but I don't journal.
No, I don't do that either.
I've never been successful with that, but I mean,
Same.
It's not knocking someone who does that. I imagine that's very useful.
It's probably good. I've been recommended to do it. I tend to be self-loathing and highly very hard on myself with my notes. I'm like, wait, this is not like a self-deprecation exercise. It should be like but I'm also not, we've talked about this before. I don't think to myself in my own head.
Yeah.
Like
you don't?
No, remember how like people talk to themselves or something? I don't do that. Do you do that?
No.
No, I have to force myself.
It's the inner voice.
The inner voice
is what they say.
No, I will do that. Like I have to like, okay, Heather, you're getting ready for a speech. This is what you're gonna say. Get your shit together. Like, don't like there is a little bit of self-talk.
Yeah.
But I'm not like in my head talking all the time.
Yeah.
So
like subconsciously having a it's like the narrator voice.
Yeah.
And some people do and some people don't. And then ones that don't understand the ones that
don't,
vice versa.
Right.
Which,
what
obviously you haven't
day?
lived your whole life that way. So how would you understand it?
Right.
I saw something today. It was this morning. There's a thing called the mind's eye. And so like if you close your eyes and I say apple, can you envision an apple in your mind?
Yeah.
Some people can't do that.
Yeah, that's hard to visualize.
There's like a scientific name for the inability to do that.
Huh.
So that people can't think visually.
Maybe some people can't think.
I have no idea the science behind it. Maybe it's like a right brain.
Oh, I want to hear about that.
Yeah, it's Anaphasia. I don't,
Because we
something
talk
like
about visualization a lot,
Mhm.
and
And some people really struggle with it.
some people I'd be very curious, like,
Mhm.
because like an athlete, like I do that all the time. Like
Right.
I would do that. Like, okay, I can see myself hitting the ball. I
Yeah,
can see
yeah.
myself like,
Yeah. You have to.
even in karate, I've done it. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I can do Taekwondo and not forget it. Like
Yep.
I don't know,
Do it in your head,
do it in my head.
asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found that interesting. All right, so let's end with this. What would you say to someone who feels like their failure defines them? Because we've all done that. We've all screwed something up. And then I don't know about you, but I kind of spin on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the failure doesn't have to be like catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had some catastrophic failures in my business and personal life. And to this day, when things start going shitty,
Mm-hmm.
I will spiral. And not like I start drinking and I run to the wall, but like I will start thinking and my thoughts will lead to those failures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And for me, that's one of my tells where I know I'm like, whoa, like how did it
Mm-hmm.
in my brain, how did it get that bad? I need to go do something else.
Yeah.
So you go work out or you go, spar someone, beat them up or something.
Hey.
But like you go for a run or, play a video game, do something like that's my thing to like, don't continue down this path.
Yeah. It can be hard.
But there are people that
Spiral.
well, they talk about is the shit they fucked up for like 40 years, I know people like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I never went to college because blah blah blah, and you're like, what?
You're like,
You're 50, bro.
you can literally do whatever you want to do.
You can go now.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
but what would you say to someone who feels like their failure, singular or plural, defines them? How would you get out of that?
It's gonna sound kind of like contradictory, but get over yourself.
Mm.
Like no one cares
That's
unless you like killed somebody.
That's a harsh life lesson.
Unless you killed somebody.
Well, we're not talking.
Okay, but like,
yeah, if you're serial,
you're the only one that cares about this,
right?
So allow yourself.
Yeah, no one's paying attention
to fully digest.
Yeah.
That unless you killed somebody, no one probably fucking cares.
Right.
Or if they do, then you can apologize, try to right those wrongs, or maybe they won't, accept that apology, whatever you did. Right. But like you should be granted yourself a little bit of grace to just accept that most people don't care, first of all. And second of all, like you only have so much time to live in this world.
Yeah.
In this
what do you
world.
do? Yeah.
You're going to live in your life and just regret
or
wish you had done something or did something different.
No regrets. Yep.
You have to take a step forward. Step forward, first of all. Jump off the spiraling bandwagon, which I can be guilty of. But you learn, like you said, you learn those skills to stop that cycle. You going to stop it or not? Like,
I love that. Just do it.
Just like literally, it seems simple, but
yeah, I know.
I feel bad for people who live in that space for their whole lives, and we're around those people.
Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way.
That was a long time ago.
You can choose different.
I didn't remember. Why did you?
I'm a great example of that in every way possible.
Yeah.
Personally, professionally.
Absolutely.
Everything. Like I have learned a ton and I've gotten to where I want to be. Have
you ever had to like really, truly, sincerely apologize for some terrible shit you did? Whether you did it on purpose or without knowing.
Yes.
What makes a good apology?
First, mean it.
Yeah.
And I think it means more if you come to somebody, if it's a situation where you can change how you do something, come with a solution.
Yeah.
It's like going to a meeting and being like,
stop doing the dumb shit.
Like, I hate this. Like, well, what do you want to change about it? Like, I don't know. And it's kind of an empty apology.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah. I've been a shitty person.
Yeah, me too.
I have to apologize and be like, listen, my fault. I'm sorry, like I did this, and and also don't say I'm sorry you feel that way.
Oh, that's the worst
Oh my
apology.
God!
Yeah,
Don't ever say
that's
that. So anyway,
definitely gaslighting.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, having to apologize for something you didn't do right is very hard to do.
What you didn't do?
Or what you didn't do, or
Oh,
what you
yeah,
did
yeah,
wrong, or if you wronged someone or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. You definitely have to acknowledge that you suck. It's a hard thing to do.
yeah. It definitely is. Yeah.
That was cool. I wanted to go through that stuff with you. I liked your paper a lot, and
Oh, good.
made me think about a lot of stuff. And well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Oh, I'm glad. I was like, I might have to rewrite it. I don't know.
Well done. Any parting words or anything?
No, I hope we can look at part 2.
Okay, we'll see.
Or I'm like halfway through it. So yeah, I mean it's a lot, but every time I do that exercise, I learn a lot about myself.
I was gonna say, do you find value in the?
Oh God, yeah.
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 Usually everyone says that.
Yeah.
Even the white belts, getting ready for their first actual test, they'll have to write that first paper, and they're like, what the hell? Like,
how do I continue?
Normally they're like, I haven't written a paper in like 25 years.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, I really enjoyed this. I hope you read it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hope I read it too.
Well, the beautiful part is like you can, I think that we've probably many of those first papers that even I wrote. I'm like, I'm going to define humility.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like,
well, you're not internalizing it.
Not yet.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to like kind of start with the baseline. Okay, what does this really truly mean?
Yeah.
And then let's apply it to the other parts of our life.
Yep.
So anyway.
Well, you are a living example of our motto, which is master yourself, serve others. And it's impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.